The gunshot echoed through the mountains as Olivia Hartwood lowered her father's rifle, cursing under her breath at the rabbit that had darted away. At 22, she had learned to survive on her own since her father's passing 3 months ago, but hunting was still a challenge. Standing on the ridge overlooking their modest ranch in the Colorado Territory, she could see the dust cloud rising from the valley, a lone rider approaching. That could only mean trouble. It was 1876, and Olivia had been fighting to keep their small homestead afloat after her father's sudden death had left her with nothing but unpaid debts and hungry mouths to feed hers and those of the few remaining ranch hands who'd stayed out of loyalty. The bank had been circling like vultures, waiting for her to fail. She hurried down the hillside, skirts gathered in one hand, rifle in the other. The dust cloud grew larger as she approached the cabin. By the time she reached the porch, the rider was nearly at the gate. She recognized the tall frame, broad shoulders, and the familiar black Stetson immediately. Owen Sutherland. 5 years ago, Owen had been her father's most promising ranch hand and the young man who'd stolen Olivia's heart with his quiet strength and gentle smile. They'd been inseparable that summer when she was 17 and he 20. But he'd left abruptly one autumn morning with nothing but a hastily scribbled note about seeking his fortune. Now here he was, riding back into her life when everything was falling apart. Olivia raised her rifle, not quite aiming at him, but making her point clear. "That's far enough, Sutherland," she called out, her voice stronger than she felt. Owen pulled his horse to a stop, dust settling around him. His face had weathered in the years since she'd seen him last, more angular, tanned by the sun, with the beginnings of crow's feet at the corners of his eyes. His hair was longer now, curling slightly at the nape of his neck beneath his hat. "Livy," he said, using the name only he had ever called her. "Is that any way to greet an old friend?" "We stopped being friends the day you left without a proper goodbye," she replied. "What do you want?" "If you've come to collect what my father owed you in wages, I'm afraid you'll have to wait in line. There are plenty ahead of you." A small, knowing smile tugged at Owen's lips. He dismounted smoothly, boots hitting the dirt with a soft thud. He kept his distance, respecting the rifle still loosely pointed in his direction. "I didn't come to collect a debt, Livy." "Then why are you here?" Owen removed his hat, holding it against his chest. A gesture both respectful and oddly formal. "I came to collect my bride." Olivia nearly dropped her rifle. "Your what?" "You heard me." His voice was steady, confident. "Before I left, your father and I made a pact. He said if I could make something of myself in 5 years' time, I could come back for you with his blessing." Anger flared in Olivia's chest, hot and sudden. "And you waited until he was cold in his grave to return? How convenient." Pain flashed across Owen's face. "I didn't know, Livy. I've been up in Montana Territory. News travels slow. I only heard about your father when I reached Denver last week." "Well, whatever arrangement you had with him died when he did," she said, lowering the rifle, but keeping her grip tight. "I'm not some prize to be claimed." "I never thought you were," Owen said, taking a cautious step forward. "But I made a promise to him and to myself. I said I'd come back for you, and here I am." 5 years too late," Olivia whispered, hating the catch in her voice. "Am I?" His eyes searched hers. "I've built something, Livy. A cattle operation up north. It's good land, profitable. I came back as soon as I could." Olivia shook her head. "And you expect me to just abandon my father's ranch? This is my home. I heard in town that you're 3 months behind on the banknotes. Is that true?" She stiffened. "My financial troubles are none of your concern." "They are if I can help," Owen said, stepping closer. "Let me help you, Livy. I don't need your charity. It's not charity I'm offering." His voice dropped lower. "It's a partnership." Before Olivia could respond, hoofbeats sounded from the road. 3 riders approached, and she recognized the center figure immediately, Harold Preston, the banker who held her father's notes. Perfect timing, she muttered, glancing at Owen. Now you can witness firsthand what you abandoned. Preston and his men stopped a few yards away. The banker, a portly man with a carefully trimmed mustache and expensive Eastern clothes, looked down at Olivia with undisguised satisfaction. "Miss Hartwood," Preston called out, "I've come to discuss the overdue payments on your property." "I told you I'd have the money by the end of the month, Mr. Preston," Olivia replied, squaring her shoulders. "I'm afraid that's no longer acceptable," Preston said, producing a document from his coat pocket. "The bank has decided to call in the full loan. You have until Friday to pay the entire sum, or will be forced to begin foreclosure proceedings." Friday. Olivia's heart sank. That's only 3 days away. We had an agreement for the end of the month. Agreements change, Miss Hartwood, especially when payments are consistently late. Preston's eyes shifted to Owen, sizing him up. "And who might this be? Another hired hand you can't afford to pay." Before Olivia could answer, Owen stepped forward. "Owen Sutherland," he said, his voice level but with an undercurrent of steel. "Miss Hartwood's fiancé." Olivia whipped her head around to stare at him, but Owen kept his eyes on Preston. "Is that so?" Preston looked between them skeptically. "Strange, she's never mentioned a fiancé before." "I've been away on business," Owen said smoothly. "Building our future." Preston's smile thinned. "Well, Mr. Sutherland, unless that future includes $500 by Friday, I'm afraid your bride-to-be will be homeless." Owen nodded thoughtfully. "And if the money is paid in full, the property would be free and clear?" "There would still be property taxes, of course, but yes, the mortgage would be satisfied," Preston confirmed, looking increasingly curious. "I'll have your money by Friday," Owen said with such confidence that even Olivia almost believed him. Preston chuckled. Bold words from a dusty cowboy. "We shall see, Mr. Sutherland. We shall see." He tipped his hat mockingly. "Good day, Miss Hartwood. I look forward to our next meeting." As Preston and his men rode away, Olivia turned on Owen, fury in her eyes. "How dare you?" she hissed. "Fiancé? You can't just ride in here after 5 years and claim me like some sort of property." "I was trying to help," Owen said, remaining calm in the face of her anger. "And I meant what I said about the money." $500? Do you have that kind of money?" "I do," he said simply. Olivia fell silent, studying his face for any sign of deception. "Why would you do that?" "Why would you pay off my father's debts?" "Our debts," Owen corrected her. "James Hartwood gave me my start. Everything I built began here." He gestured to the ranch around them. "Besides, I told you why I came back. For your bride," Olivia repeated, the words tasting strange on her tongue. "For you, Livy," Owen said softly. "I came back for you. The money is yours whether you'll have me or not. But I'm hoping you'll at least hear me out." Olivia felt the ground shifting beneath her feet. For months, she'd been fighting a losing battle, watching her father's legacy slip through her fingers. Now Owen Sutherland had appeared like some mirage in the desert, offering salvation with strings she wasn't sure she wanted attached. "You can sleep in the bunkhouse," she said finally. "The hands won't mind the company. We'll talk in the morning." Owen nodded, accepting her terms. "Thank you." As he led his horse toward the bunkhouse, Olivia called after him. "Owen." He turned, hope evident in his eyes. "This doesn't mean I've agreed to anything," she warned. A slow smile spread across his face. "I wouldn't expect anything less from you, Livy. You always were the stubborn one." As night fell, Olivia sat alone at her father's desk, poring over the account books by lamplight. The numbers refused to add up to anything but disaster. $500 might as well have been 5,000. Even if she sold everything of value on the ranch, including her mother's silver, she wouldn't come close. A soft knock at the door startled her. Owen stood in the doorway, holding a steaming mug. Mrs. Flores thought you might need some coffee, he said, referring to the cook who had helped raise Olivia after her mother's death. Thank you. She accepted the mug, careful not to let their fingers touch. I thought you'd be asleep by now. Too many thoughts. Owen leaned against the doorframe. The ranch looks good, considering everything. I've tried to keep it running the way Father would have wanted, Olivia admitted, closing the ledger. But cattle prices are down, and we lost half the herd to disease last winter. I heard. That's rough country. Silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken words and shared memories. Why did you really leave, Owen? Olivia finally asked, the question that had haunted her for 5 years. Owen sighed, removing his hat and running a hand through his hair. Your father called me into this very room one night. Told me he'd seen how I looked at you, how you looked at me. He smiled faintly at the memory. He said if I was serious about you, I needed to be able to provide more than a ranch hand's wages. He told you to leave? Olivia asked, incredulous. No. He challenged me to make something of myself. Said he'd give me 5 years to build a future worthy of his daughter. Owen's eyes met hers. I didn't want to go, Livy. But I wanted to be worthy of you. You already were, she whispered. Maybe. But I wasn't sure I was worthy of myself yet. Owen straightened. Get some rest. Tomorrow I'll ride to the bank in town, see if we can negotiate better terms. We. Olivia raised an eyebrow. Owen held her gaze. Yes, we. Whether you agree to marry me or not, I'm not letting this ranch fall into Preston's hands. Your father would haunt me till my dying day. After he left, Olivia remained at the desk, her coffee growing cold. Part of her wanted to believe everything Owen said, that he'd left to better himself, that he'd always planned to return. But 5 years was a long time, and the girl who had pined for him was buried beneath the woman who had learned to survive alone. The next morning dawned clear and bright. Olivia rose early, as was her habit, and was surprised to find Owen already in the barn, helping Miguel, one of the ranch hands, repair a broken wagon wheel. Been up long? She asked, approaching them. Owen straightened, wiping his hands on a rag. Since sunrise. Thought I'd make myself useful. Miguel grinned, tipping his hat to Olivia. This one remembers his way around, Miss Hartwood. Already fixed the South Corral gate, too. Is that so? Olivia couldn't help but be impressed. Well, don't let me interrupt your productivity. Actually, Owen said, I was hoping you'd ride into town with me. I have business at the bank, and there are some things we should discuss. Olivia hesitated. I have chores. We got it handled, miss, Miguel assured her. You go on with Mr. Sutherland. An hour later, they were riding side by side toward town, the morning sun warm on their backs. Owen rode his own horse, a magnificent black stallion that spoke of his success more eloquently than words could. That's a fine animal, Olivia commented, nodding toward his horse. Thunder, Owen said with obvious pride. Raised him from a colt. He's got spirit but a good heart. Unlike his owner? Olivia couldn't resist the jab. Owen chuckled. I deserve that. As they rode, Owen told her about his years in Montana, the harsh winters, the struggles to establish his herd, the loneliness of the frontier. He spoke of the small ranch he'd built into a profitable operation with 50 head of prime cattle and plans for expansion. And not once in all that time did you think to write? Olivia asked, the question that had been burning inside her. I wrote dozens of letters, Owen replied quietly, but I never sent them. Why not? At first, because your father asked me not to. He thought it would be easier for both of us to make a clean break until I returned. Owen's eyes fixed on the horizon. Later, because I was afraid. You? Afraid? Olivia scoffed. Of what? That you'd moved on. Found someone else. That when I finally came back, you wouldn't be waiting. He glanced at her. Were you? Waiting. Olivia didn't answer immediately. I wasn't sitting by the window in my Sunday best, if that's what you're asking. Life went on, Owen. It had to. Was there anyone else? He asked, his voice carefully neutral. A few suitors, she admitted. Father encouraged them, especially in the last year before he died. I think he was worried about leaving me alone. But none of them were you, Olivia said softly, immediately regretting her honesty when she saw the flash of hope in Owen's eyes. They reached town shortly thereafter, the main street busy with morning traffic. As they hitched their horses outside the bank, Olivia noticed several people stopping to stare. Word traveled fast in small towns, and the news of Owen's return and his claim to be her fiancé had clearly preceded them. Let me do the talking, Owen said as they approached the bank's imposing doors. It's my ranch, Owen. And it's my money we're negotiating with, he countered. Trust me, just this once. Inside, they were ushered directly to Preston's office. The banker looked surprised to see them both. Miss Hartwood, Mr. Sutherland. I wasn't expecting you until Friday. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Have you come to surrender the property early? Actually, Owen said, taking a seat without being invited, we've come to discuss terms. Preston's eyebrows rose. Terms? The terms are quite simple. $500 by Friday, or foreclosure begins. Those are the terms of the existing loan, Owen agreed. I'm proposing new ones. And why would the bank consider that? Owen leaned forward. Because you and I both know the Hartwood Ranch isn't worth what you're asking. Not in this market. If you foreclose, you'll be stuck with property you can't sell for half that amount. Olivia watched in amazement as Owen calmly negotiated with Preston, revealing a business acumen she wouldn't have expected from the young ranch hand she once knew. He proposed paying $300 immediately to settle the debt, arguing that the bank would be better served accepting a guaranteed payment now than gambling on a foreclosure sale later. Preston blustered and threatened, but Owen remained unmoved. Finally, the banker made a counterproposal, $400, to be paid by the end of the week. $350, Owen countered. And we signed the papers today. After more haggling, they settled on $375. Preston, though clearly displeased, drafted the necessary documents. When the time came to pay, Owen produced a bank draft from his inside pocket. You actually have the money, Olivia whispered, astonished. I told you I built something, Livy, Owen replied softly. I wouldn't have come back if I couldn't make good on my promise. As they left the bank with the newly signed deed, Olivia felt lightheaded with relief. For the first time in months, the weight of impending financial ruin had lifted from her shoulders. I don't know how to thank you, she said as they untied their horses. You don't need to thank me, Owen replied. But you do need to listen to the rest of my proposal. They stopped for lunch at the town's small restaurant, drawing curious stares from the other patrons. Olivia was acutely aware of the gossip that would be circulating by nightfall. Over coffee, Owen laid out his plan. The ranch needs capital to recover money for new stock, repairs, hired hands. I'm prepared to invest everything I have. Why would you do that? Olivia asked, though she was beginning to understand his motivations went beyond simple business. Because I believe in the ranch, in what your father built. Owen hesitated. And because I never stopped loving you, Livy. Not for a single day. Olivia's breath caught. You can't just say things like that. Why not? It's the truth. His eyes held hers. I'm not asking you to love me back. Not yet. But I am asking you to consider my proposal a business arrangement, if nothing else. We combine our resources. My cattle operation in Montana, your ranch here. Together, we could build something lasting. And the marriage part of this arrangement? Olivia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Would give the business legitimacy. Protect both our interests. Owen's expression softened. And maybe, in time, it could be more than just an arrangement. But that would be your choice, Livy. Always your choice. They rode back to the ranch in thoughtful silence. Olivia's mind raced with conflicting emotions. The practical part of her saw the wisdom in Owen's proposal. With his investment and expertise, the ranch could not only survive but thrive. And yet, the idea of marrying a man who had abandoned her once before, no matter how noble his reasons. "I need time to think," she said as they approached the ranch. "Take all the time you need," Owen replied. "I'm not going anywhere this time." That evening, after dinner with the ranch hands, Olivia found Owen sitting alone on the porch, staring at the stars. She sat beside him, maintaining a careful distance. "Tell me about Montana," she said. Owen smiled. "It's beautiful, wild in a way that gets under your skin. The mountains make you feel small, but in a good way, like your problems aren't as big as they seem." "And your ranch?" "It's modest but growing. Good water, plenty of grazing land. The cabin needs work. It's nothing like this house, but it's solid. Room to expand." He glanced at her. "Room for a family someday." Olivia swallowed hard. "You've thought about that? A family?" "Every day since I left," Owen admitted. "In my mind, they always had your eyes."
Owen.
"I know," he said quickly. "Too much, too soon. I'm sorry." They sat in silence for a moment, the night sounds of the ranch surrounding them. "I was so angry when you left," Olivia finally said. "Not just sad, but furious. You made that decision without me. You and my father decided my future without even asking what I wanted." "You're right," Owen acknowledged. "We were wrong. I was wrong. I thought I was doing the honorable thing, but I hurt you instead." "Yes, you did." Olivia looked at him directly. "And now you're here, making decisions about my ranch, my life, without really consulting me again." Owen winced. "That's not my intention." "I know, but that's how it feels." Olivia stood, wrapping her shawl tighter around her shoulders. "I'm grateful for what you did today. Truly. But I need to know that if I agree to this partnership, it would be just that. Equal voices. Equal decisions. Nothing less," Owen promised, rising to face her. "I've learned a few things in 5 years, Livy. One of them is that the strongest partnerships are built on respect." Olivia nodded slowly. "I'll think about your offer. Good night, Owen." "Good night, Livy." As she walked back to the house, Olivia could feel his eyes following her. The same way they had that summer long ago, when everything between them had been simple and clear. The next few days passed in a whirlwind of activity. Owen seamlessly integrated himself into the ranch operations, working alongside the hands from dawn until dusk. Olivia watched as he repaired fences, tended to the livestock, and even helped Mrs. Flores patch the leaking root cellar. The men responded to his quiet leadership, and for the first time in months, the ranch hummed with purposeful energy. In the evenings, they would sit together, sometimes talking, sometimes in comfortable silence. Owen shared stories of his travels, of the characters he'd met, and the lessons he'd learned. Olivia found herself laughing more than she had since her father's death. On the 4th night after his arrival, a thunderstorm swept through the valley. The rain pounded against the windows, and lightning split the sky. Olivia sat in the parlor, attempting to darn a pair of stockings when a particularly loud crack of thunder made her jump. "Never did like storms, did you?" Owen said from the doorway, a half-smile on his face. "I've gotten better," Olivia replied, trying to steady her hands. "Father said I outgrew my fear." Another thunderclap shook the house, and Olivia flinched involuntarily. "Not entirely," Owen observed, moving to sit across from her. "Do you remember that summer storm? The one that trapped us in the old hunting cabin?" Olivia's cheeks warmed at the memory. They had been checking fence lines when the storm hit, forcing them to seek shelter in her father's hunting cabin deep in the western woods. They'd spent hours there, waiting out the rain, talking about their dreams for the future. "I remember," she said softly. "That was the day I knew I loved you," Owen said, his voice low. "Watching you gather kindling, building that little fire, telling me ghost stories to distract yourself from the thunder. You were so brave, even when you were terrified." "I wasn't brave," Olivia contradicted him. "I was showing off for you." Owen laughed. "Well, it worked." His expression grew serious. "I've never met another woman like you, Livy. Not in 5 years of looking." Before she could respond, shouting erupted from outside. They both jumped to their feet as Miguel burst through the door, soaking wet and breathless. "The creek's flooding," he gasped. "The lower pasture fence is down, and the yearlings are scattered." Without hesitation, Owen grabbed his hat and coat. "Get the men. We'll need ropes and lanterns." "You can't go out in this," Olivia protested, following him to the door. "Those yearlings are the future of your herd," Owen said, already pulling on his boots. "We can't lose them." "Then I'm coming too," Olivia declared, reaching for her own coat. Owen looked like he wanted to argue but nodded instead. "Stay close to me." The storm's fury was even more terrifying outside. Rain lashed at them as they made their way to the stables, where the other hands were already preparing horses. The normally placid creek that ran through the property had swollen to a raging torrent, washing away the fence that separated the lower pasture from the steep ravine beyond. For hours, they worked in the punishing rain, locating scattered cattle and herding them to higher ground. Olivia rode alongside Owen, her sodden clothes clinging to her skin, her hair plastered to her face. Together, they drove the frightened animals away from the dangerous waters. As they approached the ravine to check for strays, Olivia's horse suddenly reared, spooked by a lightning strike. She fought to control the animal, but the muddy ground gave way beneath its hooves. Olivia felt herself falling, sliding down the slick embankment toward the churning creek below. "Livy!" Owen's shout cut through the storm's roar. She tumbled down the slope, desperately grabbing at bushes, rocks, anything to slow her descent. Just as she slid to the edge of the raging water, a strong hand grasped her wrist. Owen had dismounted and skidded down after her, anchoring himself against a boulder while holding onto her with all his strength. "I've got you," he grunted, straining against the pull of gravity and the slippery mud. "Give me your other hand." With his help, Olivia clawed her way back up the slope, collapsing beside him on slightly more stable ground. They lay there for a moment, gasping for breath, rain pounding down on them. "Are you all right?" Owen asked, his face inches from hers, eyes wild with fear. "Yes," Olivia managed, her heart hammering. "Thanks to you." In the midst of the storm, with mud coating their clothes and rain streaming down their faces, something shifted between them. Owen's hand still gripped hers, warm and solid despite the cold rain. "I thought I was going to lose you," he said, his voice raw. "I can't lose you again, Livy. I won't survive it." Before she could respond, he leaned forward and kissed her. It wasn't gentle or hesitant, it was desperate and fierce, as wild as the storm around them. And to her own surprise, Olivia kissed him back with equal fervor, 5 years of hurt and longing pouring out of her. When they finally broke apart, the rain still pelting them, Olivia saw the same astonishment in Owen's eyes that she felt herself. "We should get back to the others," she said, her voice unsteady. Owen nodded, helping her to her feet. They climbed back up to where their horses waited, both shaken by what had just happened. By dawn, the storm had passed, leaving a mess of downed trees and muddy fields in its wake. Miraculously, they had lost only 2 yearlings to the flood, a testament to the night's hard work. The hands, exhausted but triumphant, retired to the bunkhouse as the sun rose. Olivia and Owen stood on the porch, watching the pink and gold light spread across the drenched landscape. They had changed into dry clothes, but Olivia could still feel the imprint of Owen's lips on hers, the desperate grip of his hand. About what happened at the ravine, she began. I'm not sorry, Owen interrupted. I should be, maybe. It wasn't the right time or place. But I'm not sorry, Livy. Olivia studied his face, the earnest eyes, the stubborn set of his jaw, the same features that had haunted her dreams for 5 years. Neither am I, she admitted quietly. Hope blazed across Owen's face. Does that mean? It means I'm not angry anymore, Olivia said carefully. And I'm starting to believe that you really did come back for me, not just for the ranch. The ranch is part of you, Owen said. Just like Montana is part of me now. But yes, Livy, I came back for you. Only you. Olivia took a deep breath. I'll agree to your proposal, the business partnership. As for the rest, I need more time. Owen's smile was gentle. I've waited 5 years to come home to you. I can wait a little longer. Over the next weeks, spring blossomed across the valley. Under Owen's direction, the ranch began to recover from both the storm's damage and the years of financial struggle. New cattle were purchased, buildings repaired, and plans made for expanding their operations. Olivia watched Owen work tirelessly, his dedication to the ranch matching her own. In the evenings, they would sit together in the parlor or on the porch, talking about the day's events and their visions for the future. Slowly, the wall Olivia had built around her heart began to crumble. One evening, as they walked along the creek where the floodwaters had receded, Owen stopped to pick up a smooth, flat stone. My father taught me to skip stones when I was a boy, he said, sending the rock skipping across the water's surface. Said it was like life, you need the right angle, the right force, and a little bit of luck. Olivia smiled, selecting her own stone. And if you don't have those things, then you watch it sink and try again with another stone. Owen's eyes met hers. I sank the first time, Livy. Let me show you I've learned how to skip. You've been showing me, she acknowledged, tossing her stone across the water. It skipped 3 times before disappearing. Every day since you returned. Owen took her hand, his touch warm and familiar. Then let me keep showing you. For the rest of our lives. Are you proposing again, Mr. Sutherland? Olivia asked, her heart beating faster. I am. Owen turned to face her fully. Not for business, not because of a promise to your father, but because I love you, Olivia Hartwood. I have since that first summer, and I will until my last breath. In the golden light of the setting sun, with the creek bubbling peacefully beside them, Olivia finally let go of the past. The hurt, the abandonment, the years of wondering, all of it washed away like the floodwaters. Yes, she said simply. Owen's face lit up with such joy that Olivia couldn't help but laugh. He lifted her off her feet, spinning her around until they were both dizzy and breathless. I'll make you happy, Livy, he promised, setting her down but keeping her close. Every day, I'll try to make you happy. You already do, she whispered, rising on tiptoe to kiss him. They were married 2 weeks later in the small church in town. The entire valley turned out for the celebration, curious to witness the culmination of what had become the most talked-about romance in the territory. Olivia wore her mother's wedding dress, altered by Mrs. Floris's skilled hands, and Owen looked handsome and slightly overwhelmed in a new suit. After the ceremony, they hosted a feast at the ranch. Tables were set up in the yard, lanterns hung from the trees, and music played late into the night. As the guests danced and celebrated, Owen pulled Olivia aside, leading her to a quiet spot beneath the old oak tree. I have something for you, he said, producing a small leather pouch from his pocket. Inside was a delicate gold ring set with a small diamond that caught the lantern light. Owen, Olivia breathed. It's beautiful. I've been carrying it for 5 years, he admitted, slipping it onto her finger alongside the simple band they'd used in the ceremony. Bought it in Denver before I left, with the last of my savings. Silly maybe, but I wanted you to have something to remember me by when I returned. Tears welled in Olivia's eyes. You really did plan to come back all along. Every step I took was leading me back to you, Owen said, brushing away a tear that had escaped down her cheek. Even when the path got rough or I lost my way for a time. Olivia leaned into his embrace, feeling the solid strength of his arms around her. Welcome home, Owen. Home, he repeated, pressing a kiss to her forehead. That's what you are to me, Livy. Not a place, but a person. My home, my heart, my bride. Under the star-filled Colorado sky, with the sounds of celebration drifting around them, Olivia knew that the debt Owen had come to collect wasn't financial at all. It was a promise one made between two hearts that had never truly been apart, despite time and distance. And now, finally, that debt was paid in full, with interest measured not in dollars, but in love that would last a lifetime. In the years that followed, the Sutherland Ranch flourished, becoming one of the most prosperous in the territory. Owen and Olivia divided their time between Colorado and Montana, building their cattle empire together as equal partners. And when their first child was born, a daughter with Olivia's eyes and Owen's determined spirit, they named her Faith, for the belief that had brought them back together against all odds. The story of the cowboy who came to collect his bride became a legend in the valley, told and retold around campfires and at social gatherings. But for Owen and Olivia, it wasn't legend at all, it was simply their life, built day by day with love, respect, and the unshakable certainty that some debts of the heart are meant to be paid in full.